not all of us would see that as, you know, that's not why they do their work.
Yeah, I think it is definitely the case that these different disciplines have different research questions. I have to be honest with you, making explicit those research questions itself would be a significant part of the multidisciplinary debate. I can't tell you the number of panel discussions I'm on with different people coming from different perspectives, and they're criticising each other, but that's because they're asking different questions. But they don't make that explicit. So even that process of bringing the disciplines together and making explicit what we're interested in is an early first stage. But my guess is that there is actually some overlap, and there are some healthy... We might actually learn something just from other disciplines and knowing what questions they're asking. Because one of the problems with disciplinary silos is we take for granted the questions. And I mean, it goes back to the question about why economists aren't engaging with culture. They're not actually asking the most interesting questions, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to culture. If they were, they might think, aha, and which is what happened with me. I mean, I started working in this area 6 years ago. I don't think I can stop working with it, right, because of the most fascinating questions and relevant questions that we have. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any easy answer to it, but I do think being explicit about the questions will make a massive difference.
Because I think at this stage it feels like everybody's compromising as well. You know, I feel like artists are compromising, you know, what they value in order to respond to funding bodies, and I think that's a really sort of, you know, dangerous path. And you know, and I wouldn't want economists to, you know, compromise either. I would want us all to be very explicit about our methodologies.
I think policymakers, wouldn't it be amazing if policymakers who are attempting to support the arts, for example, asked the artists what questions they wanted answered? I mean, you know, I do a lot of work in the creative industries and policy towards the commercial creative industries. And policymakers spend next to no time asking what are the burning questions that you want the answers to, and what can policy do to help you? The questions are actually dictated from above and are actually often the wrong ones. And I see this because I work in policy, but I work in the sector. You know, most of my research is co-created with organisations. And the policymakers are asking the wrong questions.
Thank you.
There's a question. This gentleman up here, and then Sarah Gardner down here.
A question for Hassan. You mentioned, I think, that there were two reports in the UK which had been done on the value of culture. I'm assuming one of them may have been Dave O'Brien's. Dave was commissioned by the DCMS and contracted for a year to try and find some new way of articulating the value of culture. And he spent a lot of time looking at concepts of subjective well-being, looking at the health system, and very reluctantly concluded that he couldn't get beyond the WTP model, contingent valuation, and those sorts of methods as set out in the Green Book. So, two questions. Do you think, as he did, that this was a methodological failure, indicating the limits